I call this meeting of the Magnolia Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Opens Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. At our budget workshop, we said the invocation and the pledges. So we are going to go straight to audience participation, and Mrs. Russell is here to speak, and you're up.
Hi, I've been before y'all for over a decade now. In 2012, my life changed and the mission of what I did changed. I found out that the Texas Education Service Centers, I don't remember now if it was about 18 of them, created a curriculum system behind a password-protected wall that the teachers had to sign a non-disclosure statement to, and parents were not allowed to see the content. I tried to alert parents, school board members, superintendents. I was belittled by superintendents. Some of the school boards belittled me. But fortunately, Glenn Beck and other national newspapers picked up my story about the Boston Tea Party being a terrorist act. My story was picked up about drawing a new communist flag. And fortunately, due to my political activism, I was able to make inroads into the legislature. And Dan Patrick chaired the Senate Education Committee exposing this curriculum system. I had the help from an SBOE member at the time who was willing to help me and assist me, who knew what was going on and didn't like what was going on. Since that time, I became very aware of the Marxism that's infiltrated our school system across America. I'm on national education teams that I talk to people all the time about it. Sadly, here locally, it gets more corrupt and personal, and people are more concerned with their status, their job. And I understand you run for school board, you got kids in the school. But despite that, the Marxism is here. The online learning is here and the technology is here. And I had tried to tell y'all over and over again, but it's almost like the scripture about a prophet isn't welcomed in their own town. I'm not claiming to be a prophet, and I'm telling you, this IB system is bad. And I have a book about the IB system in UNESCO and how it's infiltrated our American education system to get rid of Christian principles in the family and in the home, and then instill international mindedness in kids and globalization. And I don't, if this is such a great program, why doesn't Conroe ISD have it? One of the largest districts in the county. Now, I couldn't get y'all to listen to me. I haven't been able to. So I just took the information to the Texas State Legislature last summer, 5,000 delegates, and we passed a resolution against IB, and it's in our Republican platform now. And sadly, the school stuff made me awake as to what was going on with Marxism and DEI. Then I started finding in my local Baptist church with Right Now Media, the online platform that lots of churches sign up for. I found a communist on there. I have found a lot of social justice people on there. And y'all have got to understand that this stuff is destroying our country. And it's doing it through our children. And that is the end game. Y'all are set to approve a $24,000 payment on IB. And I'm just curious, doesn't anybody have any conscience anymore?
Thank you, Ms. Russell. Mr. Bruner is up with our bond facilities update.
Hello, I'm going to turn this over to PBK Architects, and they're going to give you an overview of junior high number 3, which we just recently priced. I'll be bringing that guaranteed maximum price to you here momentarily. But before I bring them up, I'll just give you a real quick update of where we're at with Audubon Elementary School and Intermediate School number 3. We just completed all the slabs on grade for Audubon Elementary School. We're now waiting on structural steel. That means we're on schedule. That was sort of an important point to hit. BNC Constructors has really made up a lot of time because we did kind of lose some time early on in this project. Intermediate School number 3 is moving along. They are very close to having the building pad finalized, and they'll start drilling piers Thursday this week. So that project is definitely ahead of schedule, moving well. I think it's ahead of schedule. Kerry may disagree a little bit. It took us a while to get a building permit, but they've now got the site and building permits, and they're rocking and rolling. So I'll bring PBK up and talk to you about junior high number 3.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Good evening. It's good seeing all of you again. I appreciate you, the board and Dr. Stevens, letting us come and present junior high number 3. So tonight, I think it's good for us. We've done the 3 schools, all of them under budget, so I think all of us have a really positive attitude.
You just gave away my secret.
I know, but I want to take some of the credit too.
There you go.
I can hear the thunder being stalled.
But Tim won't ever come up and help us. See, I can't tell you how much this guy helps us all the time. He knows the district really well, and he goes on and on and on and helps us through all the, from start to finish. And so I can't tell you how much we appreciate his help. So just a few little facts about the junior high. The junior high is a brand new design for the district. We have started kind of from scratch on this one, so to speak. We did a little bit from one of the other junior highs we've done, but this is a brand new design for the school. It's about 185,000 square feet, about 5,300 square feet for the field house. So all in all, it's doing really well for the dollars per square foot. So I was disappointed a little bit. My buddy coming in right now is just a little bit late. So anyway, we're gonna go through all of this and show you from start to finish. You got any questions, just let us know. So Jeff and Jorge are here tonight. So Jeff, you want to start it out?
Thanks, Bill. So here's a 31-acre site directly across from the Magnolia ISD Event Center. And so this is the kind of the older brother to the intermediate that we brought you in May. And so we wanted architecturally for it to feel like it's related to that complex across 1488. You'll see the artificial turf practice field surrounded by a track, the 5,300 square foot field house that Phil mentioned, 2 tennis courts, large staff parking and bus drop-off lanes here, and then here is our detention pond in the back and our learning courtyard. Here is the parent drop-off with plenty of stacking space to keep everybody off 1488, and the front entrance will be the flex drop-off. So our classroom wing on the west side of the facility is the classic Magnolia ISD, very efficient. This is where you get a lot of your cost savings, is being able to get double-loaded corridors, science labs in the middle, for your 7th and 8th grade students. When you walk in the main entrance, here's the example of the science labs and those in the middle with rec room. We have a learning stair that is right immediately when you walk from the main entrance into the classroom wings, our flex rooms, as well as a counselor suite separated from the main admin for student use. When you walk in the main entrance, you'll be greeted by our normal security vestibule and admin area. Directly across the corridor is the media center library. 2 fine arts rooms. As we move into the rest of the fine arts area, you have a large band hall, percussion choir, and then the drama classroom is located directly next to the stage, which is in the dining commons. Cafetorium, our food service and service yard there to the east, and then our CTE classrooms are next to the athletics corridor. Large competition gym, boys and girls locker rooms, and an auxiliary gym. Second floor is a repeat of the first floor in terms of the classroom wing. Classroom across from science lab, and then you can see the second floor, the learning stair, flex rooms, and workrooms. And with that, I'll turn it over to Jorge to walk you through the design. Thank you.
The exterior and interior. Thank you. So similar to the other schools that we have presented to you, just trying to in piggybacking on what Jeff just said, we're trying to be as efficient and cost effective as possible, but still not forgetting about the beauty and the presence and the, for lack of a better word, the curb appeal, right? Because it is also perception. So we're trying to, first of all, define the entry point of the new school. So you can see it there is, that's why we have the canopy a little bit taller and a little larger, also with that wall kind of sticking kind of toward us. But then toward the right of it, you can see the drop-off canopy as well. To not forget about those kiddos that we are actually loading and unloading from that drop-off area. So this one is, like Jeff was mentioning, this is the library, the media, so this one is toward the back of it, but maximizing amount of daylight to the space. So if you guys remember the floor plan of the library, if you see it in front of you, we have kind of that circulation center right at the center of the space, but then we have all of that daylighting and windows toward it. But if you notice on the bottom, we are not taking the glass all the way down. That's usually a preference, right? Because when you're cutting the grass or anything else, that prevents it from breaking. So again, thinking of cost effective and being as efficient as possible, but still maximizing the amount of daylight into one of the bigger spaces, and especially is coming in right at the front of the school. Similar to the design that you just saw on the media, but it's also on the fine arts. So this one is actually facing us, so people can actually see where we have again kind of those fine art spaces that Jeff just kind of told us in the floor plan. And then the end of the academic wings that you kind of saw where you were looking right at the center of the space with the double-sided corridors. So the wings at the ends where you see the punch-out windows, those are the classrooms. And then if you remember, we have a stair right in the middle where you see all the amount of glass. And then the same thing, right? Now trying to kind of balance, again, cost effectiveness and also beauty. If you notice, we don't have curtain wall, or meaning glass all the way from top to bottom, because that's usually very expensive. So the way we do it is, we put glass on the bottom level, we put glass on the second level, but in the middle, in the intermediate, we have kind of that metal panel. So that way, there's a storefront instead of being curtain wall, so it's a little bit more cost effective, but you still get the maximum gains of the daylight, but without the kind of doubling the price usually of curtain wall. So we get a pretty good facade there. Same thing on the academic wing, but this is from the other side, and again, in this case, we do need to have a little bit more kind of curtain wall there on that entry point. And then the same thing, but like Jeff was mentioning, toward the back, this is the parent drop-off, this one with a very pretty big kind of drop-off canopy, not only in the overall Q-in, but taking us from the Q-in all the way to the interior of the space. And then I think one of the last ones is the outdoor dining. So we, similar to the other two schools, especially to the intermediate, we are providing some extension of shading for the outdoor dining area as well. So we can actually maximize, not in days like today, but obviously when there's better weather, we can definitely utilize them.
Those fans really help a lot though.
They sure do. Yeah, the big, you know what fans is. And then similar to just kind of a mini version of the entry, right, with a kind of taller canopy, because like Jeff was just showing, we not only have, you know, kind of the competition gym, but we have the auxiliary gym. So the main entrance for the athletic entrance is very important. So taking the cues from the main facade, which is brought it in a kind of smaller fashion, but for that kind of entry point, and we have kind of the logo there, but we can change it as we progress. Maybe the mascot or something else that alludes to the kind of the spirit of the school. And usually on the athletic areas, that's where we kind of play out the mascot and the colors. So it's the spirit of the school, and especially in those areas. Then on the interior, so now we're jumping on the inside, similar situation, right? Trying to be as efficient and cost effective as possible, but also balancing the beauty and the effectiveness, and also the long and maintenance and cost of upkeep as well, but trying to be, again, as beautiful as possible. So this one is the main corridor, but in this point, we're actually looking, we're almost looking at from the athletic side and the fine arts looking toward the academic wing. So on the right side, that's where you can see kind of the big portal to the media center. So right after, even almost all the way at the end, you can see the windows that we just looking at from the outside to maximize the daylight into the library. And as you can see, we almost get kind of borrow light and bring all the light from the media, from the library, all the way into the corridor. So that also helps us kind of activate and not have it, you know, kind of as dark as possible. So we have a lot of daylight coming into the space. So now we're jumping into the library, like I was telling you, we go through the portals, and then we come in, we have the circulation desk and all the other amenities and furniture. As well, we have trying to kind of define that middle piece, and then the two other pieces on the sides that can actually be a little bit lower as well. And then if you notice, there's kind of the lights that's indicating kind of the circulation desk, so as you walk in, you're greeted by the librarian, but the librarian has almost like a 360 kind of overall view of the library, so she has control of what's happening in the library. situation, like we said before, like you can actually look at all the glazing and things that we can actually go to the outside. Here we also have the kind of the stage and the proscenium you see toward the back, kind of taking the same view of the portal but bringing it over to the stage, and then the rest of the other spaces. If you notice kind of that the two kind of bars, the gray bars going all the way, and I'll go back, it's kind of taking a cue from the library as well, and so we're bringing that kind of idea, that central kind of space to break the bigger space into kind of smaller areas and kind of have a cue from the library that is repeated into the dining cafeteria area. And then the gymnasium, like we were saying, bringing all the colors and then the logos. You can also look at the colors that we've done before with the overall, kind of the band that you see in the middle, those are the acoustical panels, but they can be in the color of the school, so we can have them not only be functional, but again, be beautiful as well. And then painting kind of the underside of the joists with the color of the school. And like Jeff was mentioning, so that learning stair that's connecting us from the first and second level, again, taking the cues from the previous one that we have done before, just bringing it over to the junior high idea. And this one also with a bigger kind of teaching space that you kind of see where the teacher is sitting there. So that's where the kiddos can sit, and then they can get full advantage of that space. And then this one is kind of the same thing. We're sitting actually right on the back is our library. So this is where the main crossword, the main entrance, and then left to right is the main corridor. We have some places for a TV screen on one side, display for any type of achievements of the school, and then we are looking actually what people were seeing when you're actually going out, or this is after you come in from the secure entry vestibule. If you notice the two big areas that just kind of say school graphics placeholder, those are the ones that eventually our graphic design team will come in and kind of play and kind of actually work with you guys to decide what those are going to be specific. And then the same thing, we're just as mascot, it hasn't that been decided, so then we'll actually put that in that area.
Taking pictures of the board members across those.
Thanks,
No?
No, thanks.
Thanks, no thanks.
Thanks.
And then this is just like always a typical classroom. We do always have an accent wall on the classroom, so you can see kind of that wall on the back side. That's usually the one where we have all the cabinetry, the upper and lower cabinets. And then the same thing, just have a feel of the color, if you notice the beige on the bottom. But then we always like to accent the back wall as well with some additional flooring. And so you can see kind of the blue there, not only the wall, but also the flooring as well. So that kind of breaks up the space somewhat. And then I think lastly, we'll have an animation, and then Jeff, because it was your idea, so I think you should announce.
Just look like,
If you notice, the music is not the typical
there you go.
kind of placeholder music that we use. This is a little different. And actually, I think this is the first time that we've done this.
It is.
Yes. I mean, for PBK as a whole. We're pretty happy.
Catch that screen right there. band music, right? The varsity band, do an excellent job, right there.
That's great.
So, anybody have anything? Do I? Yeah, we're gonna use it more often. So anybody got any
But
questions?
if we're gonna use it, we gotta pay royalties then.
Yeah, that's true. You got plenty of money, Jorge, to help that out. So, any questions, anything we can answer for you? I have.
How about it, guys? Anything?
Is it you said it was a new floor plan to us, have you built this somewhere
Yeah,
else?
it's at Wright Junior High.
Okay.
At where?
So it's-
Right, junior high? What
Oh.
district is that?
The Mark Consolidated.
The Mark Consolidated, yeah.
So we took the classic Magnolia classroom wing.
Right.
And we tweaked a little bit about what your school district walked. We really like this layout. We think this will work for us. We kind of combined them into one school just for you.
Okay.
For example, they don't have that learning stair in that location. Actually, I don't think they have learning stair at all. So like Jeff was mentioning, I think you guys like just the overall, just very simple layout of, you know, the kind of the public side is on one side, main entry, administration divided into two, main corridor, and then the academic wing. And so we adapted those two things. But that learning stair, that is like, you know, kind of your trademark, and so we need to put it back in.
And then the entire facade is different.
Oh, yeah.
The main entrance canopy is completely different. And then all of the materials on the inside, the no-wax concept for your flooring, the tile wainscot, all of that is normal Magnolia ISD standards. It looks nothing like what they did. And they have acoustic panels, y'all have different acoustic panels, but it's a completely unique design for your school district.
We managed to knock about 40,000 square feet out of what they designed with the same enrollment capacity.
Yeah, 1,200 students.
Is there's a requirement for square footage per student, is that?
We met the requirements. The classrooms, and it's funny, because I don't want to make fun of PBK, but the graphics there made that classroom look kind of small. These are standard sized classrooms, but 750 square feet, roughly. So we met all the space requirements. It's just a more efficient design. A lot of it had to do with our mechanical systems, and we eliminated a lot of square footage due to that. But we just cleaned it up, in my opinion, quite a bit more than, there was a lot of kind of wasted space in that. Again, not kind of throwing you guys under the bus, but it was a design that we liked the layout. We liked the spacing of it. Dr. King, Dr. Bullock, they went and visited, checked it out. So, we like the layout. We just, Phil and I just wanted to.
Well, we didn't have any mechanical rooms, so that helps us out a lot. That's a lot of square footage, that when you use the chillers and everything, that chews it up with the mechanical room, so there's a bunch of it. But very conservative, and, this double loaded corridor saving a lot of square footage.
Well, we appreciate how detailed y'all's presentations are, and it's cool to see the visuals and get
Thank you
an
very
image. I'm a
much.
picture guy, so it helps me to kind of picture it. It's really, really cool. Thank you.
I do, before you guys, I do have one question about waste side of this. It looks like the dumpster's right in front of where the kids are getting dropped off. Is that correct?
Yeah, but it's got a screen behind it.
Is there any alternative to that?
Well, we don't.
And how does that work in your other school plan? Because, I mean, you're gonna be dropping kids off and those things, it's hard to deodorize that.
We don't really have a back of house. We don't have a lot of access to back of house. But we could potentially look at relocating that around, on the fire drive access that's on the north side. I think that's where we have our, emergency generator.
Yeah, we could do that.
We could possibly push that gate back and maybe relocate it up there. Not a bad suggestion.
So when it gets hot, it'd be bad.
Yeah.
We'll take a look at it.
Yeah, at least there or the other side of the gym, or, I don't know what's going on.
That would be the other side of the gym.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, it's just, that just seems like a,
Of course, it's the closest door.
I understand it's right there by the cafeteria, and it creates a potential, workload for the people that work there, but, I don't know if there's a way where they would go out through the other side of the cafeteria and around behind the locker rooms or something, but it just seems like a tough one with our parents, you know, probably pretty early on in this, even when it's still clean and the pavement's not soiled, and, you know, when the truck that's going to pick up the dumpster isn't there right when parents are trying to pick up or drop off.
Yeah, we'll take a look at it. We definitely try to get them as close as possible, because that's where the bulk of the trash comes from.
Yeah, I get it.
You know.
Yeah, no, I mean.
Buy them a couple extra buggies and, you know, I'm sure they'll come through.
Thank you, guys, I appreciate it.
Okay,
It looks like a
thank you.
great plan.
Good comment. Anybody else?
Great job, guys. Thank you.
All right, we are moving on to our consent agenda. This portion of the agenda consists of items to be routine and will be enacted by one motion unless separate discussion is requested. If there aren't any questions, then I need a motion that the board approve consent agenda items A through D in your packet. Motion by Chuck, second by Jay. All in favor? All right. Moving on to our considered agenda, Mr. Bruner is up again.
Okay, so back on June 28th, Stewart Builders, they took bids on for junior high number 3. The project came in at, well, we met with Stewart. I say we, Phil and I went and met with Stewart. We looked at a lot of different things. We took a few alternates of theirs, but this is pretty much the package that we want. This consists of some of the best subcontractors out there, the building materials that we wanted. We were a little concerned that this was going to be close, I'll be honest with you, because we did go with artificial turf on the competition football field. Now, I mean, if you get somebody who comes up and wants to talk to you about that, just FYI, there's a lot of reasons behind that. Obviously, we look at the long-term maintenance. Also, unlike Mag Junior High and Bear Branch Junior High, where we have our own water, we have an irrigation well at Mag Junior High, we have a water plant at Bear Branch Junior High. We're not paying for the water. We would be paying for the water to irrigate this field through Quadvest, and that water comes at a very expensive rate. So this is good for our long-term M&O. Now, we realize that it's more money up front, and that's why we were a little concerned about the budget. We wanted to see kind of where we stood when this was all said and done. If we were gonna have to cut, that's probably what we're gonna have to cut. But as it turned out, Stewart Builders came in at $70,865,268. This is about roughly two and a half, almost $3 million under budget. So we feel very comfortable about this. This is going to give us, the type of funding that we're going to need to ensure that we get all of our utilities, because we are dealing with Quadvest. We are having to put in some additional utilities to serve these schools. We're looking at, some additional technology costs. So this puts us in a good spot, and I'd like to make the recommendation that you approve the GMP tonight as presented. Any questions?
Well, I think at the time when we were talking about how much money we put for each school, construction prices were skyrocketing, right? So we weren't really sure how much it was gonna come out to, and we ought to come under budget. That's,
We just knew we didn't want to be behind at
Right.
that point, and we had to get this bond passed, and we couldn't go to some, so it was a delicate kind
yeah.
of balance of trying to find that right price point at that point. And I think we hit it pretty well. I think Stewart sharpened their pencil up, gave us their best value on it too, and I think even hopefully PBK's design has helped somewhat in there to be able to efficient building of those buildings, which helps on that price. So I think a lot of things combined to give us a good value for our taxpayers on this.
Yeah, I do think there were a lot of things that contributed to this, but, I think our design, our efficiency of design, I think, you know, good subs. I think we accomplished one of the things that we wanted to accomplish when Phil and I first started working on this back in July. Dr. Stevens came to you guys, asked for a little bit of monies, you know, up front that we could pay these guys. It got us to market early. I can't imagine, you know, anybody else that took November bond projects and got them to market as quickly as we did. I think that's helped. I know it's helped. In conversations with Stewart Builders, they've indicated to us that the subs are trying to load up on the work now. They're trying to get as much under their belts as they can. So they're coming to the plate with pretty good prices. Now, obviously, the market has flattened out some too, and that's been a big contributor. So I think the big difference in where we estimated we'd be at, say, $400 a square foot to where we're at, which is what, maybe $375, $380. I think the difference is that market, you know, that market flattening out. If it had continued to rise at the rates that we had anticipated it would be, we'd probably be right there. So, as it turned out, we're a little under budget, we feel good about it.
Glad we're under budget.
Need to. Anything else?
Anything else? If there's no further questions or comments, then I need a motion that the board approve the guaranteed masking price of $70,865,268 for the construction of junior high number 3 as presented by Stewart Builders. That's all, yeah. Second. All in favor? All right. Mr. Brenner, you're still up.
Yes, unfortunately, this is not really good news, but if I go through it quickly, maybe it'll feel better. So, back in March, we brought a guaranteed maximum price for Audubon Elementary School to you at approximately $33.5 million. At that time, that project was about 1.3 million under budget. Felt very good about it. However, we were in the midst of the architectural review process with Audubon Development. And we were early in that process. It was a 3-step process. It took about 3 months. And at the end of the day, according to Audubon Development and based upon their commercial design code, there were some changes that we had to make to our design. And they are significant. And we've added it up into a change order because this was a dollar figure that we just couldn't absorb in the guaranteed maximum price. So we brought these to you tonight, asking you to approve a change order in the amount of $625,354 to address the changes required per the architectural review by Audubon Development.
Can you elaborate what those are?
So most of it dealt with the site and the building exterior. We had to do things, they wanted us, for instance, their architects wanted to add more metal. Metal's running higher than masonry. We have mechanical screens around our rooftop mechanical equipment, basically on 3 sides. They wanted it completely surrounded. It's debatable per their code, which I've never actually seen, but per their code, it has to be screened from public view. There is a sidewalk that goes behind our school that they consider to be public view. That was a very expensive, add because it was a structural issue. Again, it's steel and metal. Some of the things that are most highest, some of the most highest priced building materials out there right now. But we added more metal to the building finish. We had to add mechanical screens. We had to do a number of site revisions. It involved, some changes that they wanted with regard to things like adding brick pavers at the building, at the driveway entrances to match the rest of their development. We had wrought iron fencing in the front, but we had chain link fencing in the back. They wanted wrought iron fencing all around. That's not something we typically do. And then we had to change out all the screens that we had around equipment like our transformers, our dumpsters, and our emergency generator. We had chain link around those. We had to change those to a full block and brick system with metal gates and louvers, and it was a substantial, and the foundation changed, but it was a substantial increase. And they are listed on, let's see, do you have a copy of the change order document?
Yep.
They're listed there with the dollar figures next to them.
Yeah, so, I mean, we're gonna have to do it, we have to do what we have to do, but I think it was a learning lesson for us because we've been building buildings that aren't in subdivisions like that. And my gut is in the future, and I'm sure we're gonna get asked again, in the future, we have what we would build. And if a developer's wanting to make it different than that, I think they should pay it, because the taxpayer shouldn't have to pay for an up building just because, you know, like you said, they said, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. It's a learning lesson, because we hadn't had to build anything in a neighborhood like this, but they're popping up all around us. And I have no doubt you'll build another one of these days in one of these neighborhoods. But I think, you know, we need to come to grips with that developer. They want us there. They market to all their, you know, that's a big sell on their property. They're making money off the fact that we will put a school in there. They need to help us out on this stuff in the future. That's just me, but I feel like that's only fair. If you're gonna require us to build something that we wouldn't have built, I think they ought to be on the hook for at least some of it, if not all of it, in my mind.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and I think that we're most certainly already looking at how we approach.
Yeah, because that's a big bill to swallow.
Post-closing agreements with future developers, and in particular, we want to see their design codes up front, because if we're gonna pay for that, we certainly need to factor in, you know, a cost percentage to address that.
Or a discount on the cost of the land.
Yeah, or a discount on the cost of the land or something.
Do we have a legal opinion on our obligation to follow a deed restriction that wasn't published ahead of our, I mean, it seems like,
Well, it was covered in the post-closing agreement. The only thing that we didn't actually see was a copy of the design code and what that represented, what that consisted of. We also, while it was also included in the post-closing agreement about the review process, we didn't know to what level of detail until we actually received a copy of it. And that's where I think, to the point Mr. Ackosh has made, is we need to know that up front.
do we know, when did we get that copy of that code?
We still don't have a copy.
We have one. We're really the first major endeavor in there, other than the residential parts of it.
Well, I
And guess this
understand that,
ones are-
but, I mean, it seems like we wouldn't be obligated to do this. I understand that we want to work with these guys, and we have worked with these guys, but to Chuck's point, maybe there's a negotiating ground where they can help us with the cost.
Yeah. Have we asked them to help us with the cost? Because it sounds like this is their requirement, not our requirement for building a school.
And I'm not
I have
against,
not.
I'm not against the upgrade, I'm
And
just
I'll
against
tell you
it.
why. I've been focused on the schedule.
Sure.
And you, for instance, have asked many times,
Yeah.
when is that school gonna open?
Yes.
And I have tried to stay the course and soldier through this.
Yeah.
And fortunately, because we were comfortably under budget, this has not affected us. We knew that we,
Yeah.
you know, would be able to pay for this and still remain comfortably under budget. However, had we been in a different scenario, I'm not sure. I mean, yeah, it could have gone differently.
If I could add just real quick, Tim. Sonia, we did have our real estate lawyers review the terms of the post-closing agreement, and unfortunately, the bottom line is that we are on the hook for the cost of this. Very candid.
Can they come back after this and say, oh, we want more,
Well,
we want this, and we want that now?
I think the
Well,
review process.
yeah, the review process, we've received, final approval on all 3 phases.
So it's signed off, it's a done deal.
Correct, we've agreed.
Right.
Now,
Yeah,
What they
no, I get it.
requested.
Travis, we did remind them that they are gonna want us for partners in the future as well. They're gonna want additional schools in there, so, I mean, we've had that sort of discussion with them, so knowing what we know now, it will be considered on the front end, and/or there will be an adjustment in the price of the land, or we won't do it. So, I know that doesn't help us at the present, but we have had that discussion with them.
Yeah, my point was just, this isn't anything we've had to deal with, to my knowledge.
We haven't, in the past, we've been in unincorporated Montgomery
Right.
County.
So we built what we built.
Outside the county approval, we just pretty much we built to our standards.
But this is a definite, okay, check this box from now on, because it's an
We've had several conversations.
expensive
related to
box.
that. And we're currently in some
Sure.
negotiations right now, but those are some considerations we're trying to figure out, how you get into that as you're doing the pre-agreements for the land, about an overall cost beyond what our scope of building would particularly entail, based on their architectural review. How much can they ask us to, go beyond that envelope of what we would consider our building,
Right, what we would have done.
So, which is an interesting exercise to kind of think through, so, yeah.
So I'm making the recommendation that we approve this change order number 1 for $625,354 to bring us a total GMP of $34,166,896.62, which is still roughly about $4 million under budget, or excuse me, $400,000 under budget.
What did you say we were under budget originally? Was it 1.2
Yeah, about $1 million,
million? Okay.
million one.
It's an ugly $600,000 baby, but I think we're gonna have to wrap it up and take it home.
Yeah. Said lesson learned.
Anything else? All right, well, if there's not any other questions or comments, then I need a motion that the board approve a change order add to the guaranteed maximum price for the construction of Audubon Elementary School in the amount of $625,354 for a total guaranteed maximum price of $34,166,896.62. Need a motion?
I'll make it. We're gonna have to do
Motion
it.
by Chuck, second by Sonny. All in favor? All right.
Thank you.
Dr. Bullock.
Dr. Moffitt, thank you. Members of the board, Dr. Stevens. Some policy updates for you guys. One request for a revision, and then our normal policy update I'll get to in a second. The request for a revision deals with the district's desire to implement a program where we can administer what is technically referred to as an unassigned epinephrine auto-injector in the cases of a student or staff member who is experiencing anaphylaxis. Layman's terms, we would have a epinephrine shot available in the nurse's office with proper procedures in place, proper training, proper storage, disposal, security, all of that kind of stuff, so that if someone is having an episode of anaphylaxis, we can help. School districts are implementing policies along these lines. This is a change the legislature made, I think, in response to some incidents not too long ago. that changed the Texas Education Code to allow this to be put in place. I think the big sticker here is whether it's unassigned or assigned. So is it a prescription? Is it not a prescription? There's a lot of training that goes with this. Were this to be approved, we would be ready to start training with our nurses who would be controlling this and administering the program through them before students are on campus this fall. And you can see the language of the policy change in front of you. And I'll take any questions you may ask. I'll do my best to answer them.
When did the policy change happen?
It hasn't happened yet. It's in front of you guys for consideration.
No, I mean, but when did the state allow this?
Uh,
Because my follow-up question to that would be, why don't we already have it?
Yes, sir. Well, so it's happened within the last year, is my understanding. I think 21 is when it came through.
Sure.
Districts were a little nervous and slow to adopt until there were rules and regulations in place about the training and security and that kind of stuff. But, it was during this past school year that we decided this is something we should look into and we should have in place. Better safe than sorry is how we look at it. It's a good question.
The school nurses will be the only ones that will be able to administer that, or?
No, sir. As a matter of fact, the way the language reads, you will have to have a person who has been properly trained and ready to administer at any point the school is open for business. And so, if it is an after-hours athletic event, somebody on staff. So I envision, you're going to train administrators because at every event on campus, there's an administrator there who would be able to give access. And, probably you're looking at coaches being trained.
What's the demographic of people that have CPR training that's mandatory? Is it the same demographic that we're talking about?
The CPR training, I think coaches have CPR training. Yes, sir. It's probably going to follow a pretty similar
So I
line.
would think it would just be an add-on to that training that we have to do.
That would make sense. We're going to get into kind of figuring out how deep that runs once we get all this in front of our nurses and kind of get their feedback. But that would make sense. So a similar deal. We also have AEDs available on campus that follow pretty similar guidelines.
Right.
Which require training and access. So
Right.
It's not uncharted ground for us. Any other questions? Okay, so if I could get a motion on the first one, then I could get to the second part.
We do them individually? We're not-
Well, just this one, and the rest of it's all
Okay.
together. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay.
Or we can do it however you like.
He's giving me the-
I'll be good.
He's giving you it's your turn.
Travis, I'm for it.
It's your turn to talk.
All right. Well, I need a motion that the board approve the revision to FFAC Local Wellness and Health Services Medical Treatment as presented. Motion by Jay, seconded by Tafa. All in favor?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Moffitt. This part will not require any action. It is for your review only. This is the update from the policy service that is, guys, sometimes I look at these and I really struggle to pull out something that is, has enough meaning to our district to warrant us talking through.
We appreciate that too.
Yeah, so, there is the wholesale movement of everything we have to say about having SROs in the building to a different policy heading without changing any of the language, which will eventually require your approval. There is taking off the word designee in front of superintendent in a few places, which puts a responsibility solely on the superintendent. I did find that we are required to review the effectiveness of our bullying program now, but yet we are to not just assume that it's getting better because less isn't reported. That may mean that people don't feel safe to report. So these are all things I think we would consider anyway, but it's here. I did find of interest, they put in policy how we are to pay hourly people during emergency situations with, I think it's, let's see if I can get it right. That they shall be paid regular rate of pay for those that are not required to work to deal with emergency itself, but for those who are here to work specifically on whatever has caused the emergency as hourly people will receive 1.5 times their pay rate while they're doing that. So the rest of it is really window dressing. So this is for your review. Feel free to read it at your leisure. It will appear on next month's agenda under the consent heading, but if you have questions between now and then or would like to know much more about this, please let me know.
Can I ask a question, Pam?
Absolutely.
Do you have an example or examples of that situation where they would be getting that pay?
We had a flood. One of the floods we had to bring people into work to help shore up some of the buildings, you know, with, I think how the water was going. We had a fire at Bear Branch Junior High, you know, back a few years ago. The hurricane stuff with Harvey, the freezes oftentimes. You know, sometimes we'll need to bring in our maintenance guys to work that, and there would be your example.
Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Are you in a situation where kids had to stay at school after a weather event?
We have had situations, it's been several years ago, where flooding kept us from potentially getting kids out at the end of the day, because we couldn't get to the building.
But that wouldn't affect the teachers, just the hourly employees?
It's just the hourly employees, yes, sir, under this proposal, or under this change. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Morris.
Back for more.
All right, thank you, sir. Just to give the board just a quick background for budget amendment purposes. At the beginning of the year, especially for the newer board members, the budget is adopted by function, accounting function. You can see that on the left-hand side of the page for expenditure purposes. And anytime that we are shifting money across function or increasing or decreasing the budget within function, it requires board approval. Many districts will do these monthly. We have not come to the board for a requested amendment since it was adopted last August. So please keep that in mind. Had we been doing this on a recurring basis, the amounts that we're moving would be less. But so the important thing is, as you look at the general fund here, hopefully you can see those numbers, is that the end product is no increase in the budget. Okay, so I think that's the most important thing. We're shifting money across functions as a result of various things. One was max entitlement, where we received more revenue from some of our special ed, excuse me, not special ed fund, but special revenue funds, et cetera. Number two, each year, and it hasn't been for a couple of years, which is why it's quite this large this time, we perform a payroll account code audit to make sure that those that are being paid are being paid out of the correct account codes. Sometimes it requires an adjustment there where, let's say, a transportation employee may be being paid out of maintenance. And so, anyhow, so we've reviewed that, whether it be to spend hours and hours reviewing that. So, finally, of course, we have had to respond to some inflationary costs in transportation as it relates to fuel and so forth. And that basically is the amendments description in a nutshell, guys. I could go into more detail, but again, I think the important thing is, for general fund purposes, these are the preliminary end-of-year budget amendments, and we are not increasing the budget. We're simply shifting funds around from within. Okay? If there's no questions, I'll move forward to the other funds quickly. Debt service fund. Debt service fund, obviously used to pay for our bonded indebtedness. You know, we passed a bond in November. And whereas we've had an aggressive defeasance plan the last several years, we decided to hold tight on the defeasance for the current year and pay off principal early from the bond passage. So ultimately, we're increasing the revenue side of the budget simply to more accurately reflect actuals, and we're increasing the expenditure side of the budget to reflect what our new payment is going to be this August. That does have a negative effect on the fund balance, but ultimately this was planned. You'll remember last year the timing of the defeasance wasn't until just after the beginning of the fiscal year, and so we added basically $11 million to the fund balance. It was a temporary add. And so in light of this, we will be taking the fund balance back down to the reasonable level. Okay, any questions on that? And again, the good news with that is that we're paying off an extra almost $11 million from our 2022 bond immediately, which allowed us to maintain the same tax rate, et cetera. Then, finally, our food service fund, increasing the revenue estimates to more accurately reflect the anticipated actuals. We're very conservative with meal participation, thanks to the efforts of Mr. Deeves, Ms. Ollendorf, et cetera. Our participation has skyrocketed in food service, which is wonderful. And so we had some flexibility on the revenue side, and then the good news, bad news on the expenditure side. According to the Texas Department of Agriculture, you cannot or should not have more than 3 months of operating expenses in your fund balance in your food service fund, okay? And we've been running a tremendous budget for years where usually we have a surplus at the end of every year. So when you reach that threshold, you have to submit the TDA a plan to spend down the money, okay? There was a year where we were having to increase the cost of the meals from one entity, and yet TDA was forcing us to, anyhow, it didn't make any sense, but anyhow, sorry. So we're increasing the budget to reflect really the anticipated utilization of that. We simply did not get it in the budget by budget adoption. Kim and her folks have focused on new serving lines and other capital projects. And so basically what this does is it allows us to spend it back down to an average or to a threshold that's reasonable for fund balance purposes. And we're taking care of the needs without having to use bond funds. So that's a good thing. So those are the three funds that the board approves, like we talked about each year in August, and that is we will probably have one more amendment either August 14th or 28th. But it is our recommendation to approve these preliminary end of year budget amendments. But I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Eric, I had one question.
Yes, sir.
Not part of this, but I knew transportation was going up. And I thought I saw in one of the emails that we got on what was going on in the legislature that they were going to increase one of the allotments. Did that get passed?
No.
Okay.
So you are correct, yes, sir. The building we talked about earlier, HB 100, that were produced
Had
for
that in there.
$5.5 million, that was a component.
Okay.
And it would have added almost $1 million to our transportation allotment, which would have been substantial. But again, there's no bill at this point.
Okay. I knew I read
That's a
it.
good question. You nailed it. It was part of the increase.
So in October, this could all change, or?
Well, we hope for next year budget purposes, yes, sir.
Right.
Dr. London, I mean, we sure hope. The encouraging thing is the money's there. We talked about it, we've said it several times. Dan Patrick has been very open and honest and candid that the money's available, so.
Okay.
We'll see how the ESA things work out.
All right, well, I need a motion that the board approve the 2023 preliminary end-of-year budget amendments for the general fund, debt service fund, and child nutrition fund for the fiscal year ending August 31st, 2023. Motion by Mr. Adcox, second by Mr. Michaels, all in favor?
All right, just another brief background before I ask for a motion on this item for the new board members. Every 2 years, we're required by TEA to go through the procurement process to secure a depository bank. Obviously, that functions just how it suggests. It holds our cash for payment of bills, payment of payroll, and things of that nature. It does allow for up to 3 extensions. However, we have utilized all 3 of our current extensions, so we're forced to go through the process again this year. We had 4 submissions. That were competitive. We've used Wood Forest Bank for years, for approximately 10 years now, primarily because of the interest rates that we receive on overnight deposits, wherein we had a meeting with them and they met our needs so that we would keep more money in the bank as opposed to our pools. And also, their level of service has been outstanding. And the fact that they have a location on each of the east side and the west side is huge for us. We have food service folks that have to go to the bank every day to make sure that we're not accumulating too much money. So honestly, it was an easy recommendation for us to stick with Woodforest Bank. But again, you can see the scores, and they're on the bottom right of the screen here, and those are the other factors that we took into consideration. So it is our recommendation, I'll be glad to answer any specific questions, but it is our recommendation to award Woodforest Bank our depository contract for the 2023-2025 biennium. Happy to answer any questions.
Just looking at the banks you compared them to, didn't look like I'm not even familiar with Simmons Bank or Texas Capital Bank. Why would you look at those guys?
Well,
As opposed to say-
they just submitted them.
because we put
They
an
submitted, yes,
RFP,
sir.
yeah, got it.
No, I mean, we have an obligation to notify banks in our district
Yeah.
of the depository procurement process. And, yeah, I mean, you could.
Those are the ones that.
Yes, sir,
okay.
you can clearly tell that
Got
they
it.
were not competitive, and I'm with you in terms of their popularity. But no, sir, these are the four that have submitted proposals.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
It might help their popularity if they got.
Well, if they got it,
Yeah, right.
a district with a $150 million budget, it might not hurt, but they did come in very strong. And quite honestly, none of, Wood Forest, I mean, they have Conroe ISD. They know how to work with school districts.
Sure.
They've been very helpful in meeting with us. Like I said, they noticed a couple of years ago that we were shifting nearly all of our money out as soon as it would get in.
Yeah.
And obviously, we were moving to the area that was making better interest, and so they came to us and said, hey, would you guys be interested in maintaining a higher level on a daily basis? We said, well, sure we will, if you'll increase our interest. And so we created a plan of how the interest rates on a monthly basis would tie to the pool returns, where we would be guaranteed the pool rate of return plus some basis points. So anyhow, they came through, and so everyone wins.
Fair enough.
We are still waiting for our football field, like Conroe got.
Mm-hmm.
Anyhow, that's my recommendation, guys.
At least turf.
All right, well, I need a motion that the board approve the depository contract with Woodforest National Bank for the 2023-2025 biennium. Motion by Ms. Ebel, second by Ms. Norris, all in favor?
Thank you.
Well, it is that time of year that we appoint a delegate and an alternate to the TASB convention scheduled to be held Saturday, September 30th in Dallas. Last year, it was me and Gary served as an alternate. Only one person has to attend, but if both the delegate and the alternate want to both attend, they're welcome to. Our board's participation in the delegate assembly ensures our voice is heard there. And do any of you guys want to volunteer to be the delegate?
Everybody wants.
Norris? Yes.
Let me help you with that.
Awesome. Anybody want to be an alternate in case she can't be there, or do y'all both want to go?
Can she be the alternate too?
No, I'll be there.
30th.
This is where we nominate somebody who's not
I
here.
think I already have something though.
Okay.
Can we nominate somebody who's not here? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Poor Dasha. Can we nominate
have
Dasha?
it?
No.
We volunteered, Josh.
Well, we have a majority, so we could,
Hey,
they couldn't vote themselves
Stacia,
off.
how sure are you you're gonna go? Really sure? You wanted to go, right?
Oh, I wanted to go. I'm excited.
Okay, I'll be the alternate.
Okay.
Who's
Yeah, be the alternate.
Jay.
Jay, oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, well,
She's going.
we have to officially do this. So I need a motion that the board select Mrs. Norris as delegate and Mr. Michaels as the alternate to serve on the 2023 TASB Delegate Assembly scheduled for Saturday, September 30th in Dallas, Texas, America. Motion by Ms. Ebel, second. All in favor?
You doing good?
Okay. I think that's it. Anything else, Dr. Stevens, or anybody got anything else? Okay. Board will now recess to move into closed executive session for the purpose permitted by consultation with attorney pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071, personnel discussion recommendation pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074, discussion of purchase, sale, exchange, or value of real property pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.072. I need a motion that we adjourn this meeting. Motion by
Everybody.
Simon. Second by Chuck. All in favor?